So you all have heard the expression, either you're with me or you're against me. And in the Old Testament reading today, you have incredible abominations and horrible sins and tremendous scandal happening in God's chosen people. And so Ezekiel has this vision of this. I saw 6 men, one with a linen, going through, and they're given instructions. And what is the instruction they're given? Mark everybody's forehead with a towel. What is a towel? Tau is the letter T. Looks like a cross, doesn't it? Mark everybody's forehead with a towel that moans and groans over the over the sins that are happening. Either you grieve the sins that are taking place, or you participate in a sense. Either you're with me or you're against me. There's not that gray area that sometimes we like to put ourselves in. Either you moan and groan over the sins, either it causes you grief, and you are motivated in a sense to, and I think of John Paul II, when I was listening to Mac read the reading, John Paul II, the people that knew him well would say that oftentimes in his prayer, it was just kind of moaning and groaning, this kind of deep, intimate prayer that he would get lost in it for long periods of time. And you pray. So that's happened. That's kind of one of the things happening with Ezekiel. And then in the gospel, I won't address the whole gospel, but I will say again, we shouldn't just moan and groan about our brother or sister who offends us. We should go talk to them. And we shouldn't talk to our neighbor about it. We should talk to them about the problem. That's hard, isn't it? It's easier to talk to your neighbor about your other neighbor. Jesus is saying, go talk to the person that's giving you problems. Go speak to them. And that takes the virtue of courage. And you know what? You might be wrong, believe it or not. So if you go tell them and they say, no, I'm not wrong, you're wrong, well, get somebody else to help you figure out what's going on. Take a couple people and discuss it together. You see this is very practical advice. This is really, above all, this is Jesus telling the apostles how to deal with problems in the church. Church management, in a sense. This is between me and, it's not Father Jacob anymore. It's, we have Father Charles Kenny down there. Anyway, I should know my priest down the road. Okay, so but he's new. So nonetheless, I want to talk about a priest. I want to talk briefly. I read St. Maximilian Kolbe's life again this morning. Very brief synopsis of his life. When I read this little synopsis of his life, how did I feel? Like I've done nothing, and I will do nothing. It's just so humbling to read. So first of all, his father was martyred by the Russians, and so he dealt with that. And then he joined the seminary at a very young age, and he became a seminary professor, and then he started a publishing house, and then he had tuberculosis, and he was very sick, and he suffered with tuberculosis and the problems of that all his life. He carried that cross, but that didn't keep him from becoming a missionary to Japan and a missionary to India. And then, most people know about that he was arrested by the Nazis. He was put in a concentration camp. And then he volunteered his life to spare somebody else. And he was starved to death. And even after being starved to death, he still didn't die, so they injected him with poison to finish him off. And so St. Maximilian Kolbe, pray for us. That we would use the gift of life that we would squeeze some of the gift of life out as you did. And back to Ezekiel, that we would be marked with the sign of the cross, that we would grieve the sins of the world, our own sins especially, and that when we have challenges and confrontations, that we would live up to our responsibility and actually face those challenges and difficulties.